Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Monday night, 8 p.m. You know what that means. It is the Online Darts Live Lounge with myself, Phil Bars, Jack Garwood and Dan Simpson. We have all made it safely back from the wonderful Circus Tavern. And for the next 2 hours, we are going to talk darting nonsense. And there is plenty of it to be spoken, as always, on a Monday night. Gentlemen, good evening.
Hiya. You all right?
Hello there.
How is everyone?
Mixed. Gob and I are having a mixed day today. There's I don't want to talk too much about it. There was an administrative error. Emails were not read. Spam folders weren't checked. Mistakes were made. Lessons were learned. And our trip to the UK Open remains in jeopardy as we speak. But after a relatively negative day because of that, I'm trying to take this couple of hours to stay very positive. I was very, very negative for the first hour of last week's show, and I basically swore a lot and said that everything in the world was crap. So this week, I'm incredibly enthused. I had a properly good time down at the tavern, and I won't go into it now because I'm sure we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the World Seniors World Championships. But it was really fun catching up with you two a bit better. I got to peck Jack's head for 4 days, sit on his shoulder and annoy him. I had a brilliant time. It was ace. So other than a bit of a strange one today, we're very good.
Well, I know you don't want to go into it, but just, is there any hope on the horizon?
Potential. We have irons in fires. We're well-connected people in the world of darts, aren't we? You know, irons are in fires, seeds are being sown, all is not lost.
That being said, as a bit of a plea, because we might clip this bit up at the end as well, if anybody, before the end of tomorrow, Tuesday night, is able to get in touch with myself, Dan, or Cam with wristbands and accommodation for Minehead, please let us know.
Yes.
Is that like deadline day tomorrow night at 11 p.m?
What it is, we've all got the free weekend, and I think if we don't...
Katie sat next to me, yours definitely knows, and I think Cam's in the same situation. Basically, all three of our partners are now aware that it might not happen, and they've all got their hopes up on a free weekend holiday somewhere else.
They've all got other ideas.
Someone's already found 2 return flights from Luton to Milan for 3 days for 40 quid each. That's a lot more appealing than 300 quid in Minehead.
I'm just finding out, what do you think? Instead of deadline day, do we do a Butlins deadline stream tomorrow with the bar going across the bottom? We can have people calling in. They've seen Bob going here, Dan travelling there.
I'm not sure my nerves could cope with that after the morning I had today. I was on honestly, mate, I've been on such a high. Because I was already on that come down because I had such a great few days down at the Circus Tavern. And then yesterday, yesterday was like that day, like when you come home from a holiday. So because I'd stayed over the Saturday, drove home yesterday, which is 5 hours for me to drive home. And when I got home, what was sort of what I was clinging on to at the end of this amazing trip was, it's not the UK Open's around the corner. And then this morning, things shuffled and things weren't quite where we thought they were. And we've had to have a bit of a rethink. But all is not lost.
To be fair, before I jump in and say a few congratulations, Adam, I didn't want to ask this and kick them while they're down, but if they're not going and they want to do a stream, then hey, you've asked, not me.
Not happening.
As I said, I wanted to ask, someone else did. First of all, Gob, congratulations on your World Seniors debut referee, mate, on the stage in your suit and tie. Well done, mate.
Expertly ironed by the man at the bottom of your picture.
But yeah, well done, mate. It was good. I'm sure there'll be more opportunities on the senior stage for you.
Thank you very much.
Let's jump into the chat room. Dell is in. Sam, Lynn. Hope you had a good time at the tavern, apart from the result, obviously. Shelty, Kate is in. Bob, Robbie, Warren, Kev, how we doing? Ricky is in, and thank you very much, mate. Brad says, up the live lounge, Andrew, James, Rob is in.
It's busy in there tonight, isn't it?
It's packed. Not on demand, Rob. Every now and then they'll. To be fair, those darts, they were just in a box and I chucked them. They were actually quite nice. How we doing? Daniel, Owen, Mark is in. Simon, Well, it is Ram. Cam is in. Matthew, Dylan, Brady. Yes, I'll tell you what is going off. Dave, how are we doing? Jar is in. Hope you are good. Bill, Max. I'll tell you what, you lot are all absolutely smashing it tonight. Adventure Hog. Look, shall we go straight to the seniors then, as it's very topical and in the forefront.
Fresh, and also because me and Gob didn't get a chance to watch the Premier League, so we probably have to glance over that one with the help of.
I can fill you in on that. I can fill you in on that.
With the help of you on that, Phil, you might have to. But yeah, I definitely think the seniors would be the best place to start this evening.
Anthony is in. Always a pleasure to have you in from the great state of Texas, of course, via the most magnificent, wonderful city of New York. Right, so the fourth World Seniors World Championship took place at the Tavern. Gents, first of all, before we dissect everything and things like that, what was your overall emotion walking away from the Tavern about this year's World Seniors World Championship?
You go first, mate. You're a bit closer to it than me.
It just felt much the same, to be honest. I just think it's a fantastic event all around. The venue is just perfect, isn't it? Like, well, from a darts point of view, like the shape of it is really, really good. You've got the history, you've got whatever else. It's far better than the Lakeside equivalent, if you like. It was dressed up really nicely, as always. We're pretty fortunate that our media room is in the venue, so we get to sit and watch from the sidelines the entire way as well. It's just a really, really good place for darts.
It was my first trip to the Tavern, and it surprised me in some ways. It didn't surprise me in others. I loved every minute of it. I think the venue is, like you say, the venue is spot on. The seniors is what it is to a degree. I was a bit frustrated today that there was a lot of people, there was a lot of interaction, a lot of people on socials talking about the seniors, and a lot of people covering it and commenting it, and every now and again they just seem to be like, you know, in amongst the comments there'll be someone moaning about the standard, and I think, well, they didn't watch it, because what they mean is, I've looked at the averages and I think that the Premier League averages are better. Well, no shit. Like what an obvious thing to say. Like, what's like where is, like, there's no nuance and there's no depth whatsoever to that thinking. Like, what we did see is, whilst the averages aren't maybe as high as we're used to seeing at the top end of the PDC, first of all, that isn't what you expect. That's not what you have gone to watch. But the entertainment from the games themselves, you know, darts matches can be highly entertaining and incredibly competitive without both people averaging 109. Like, I thought the quality of what we saw in terms of like darts entertainment is super, like is absolutely superb. I suppose it's for me to say rather than you two, because you two both do more work there, so like you can't be marking your own work by making a comment on the way that it's ran, because you're part of it. But I'm there almost as an online darts person, as a spectator, and I was genuinely impressed. Like, I was lucky enough to be sat for the week in a position where you could like see, you know, behind the curtain, if you like, for want of a better word. However, and like, honestly, the effort and the work that goes into it, and the level of production and the attention to detail and the way that it is set up for fans, I think is amazing. Like, the fan experience is as good as any fan experience in darts, I think, if you are a darts fan. Like, and yes, if you might think that going in the MEN arena and watching the Premier League there is a good way to watch darts, and first of all, you're an idiot. You're not probably a darts fan. The fans are amazing. Like, the seniors has its own following. I think of regulars. I think the way that they pulled the rest of the crowd through the week and like genuinely inspired people to get involved and do the conga and sing along and people dressing up and like it was just brilliant. I think it was absolutely brilliant all around. Like I think if you go there with a big group of people, you'll have an amazing time. If you go there on your own to watch darts, which I have done a few times before, like you will feel accepted and safe and comfortable and part of the crowd. I just think it's difficult to say enough good things. Really good, very, very good across the board.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it was Rob that asked about. Yeah, it was still 24/7 producing it, mate. So, yeah, no, I thought they did a good job. I thought it was good all round. I watched from the Emerald Isle Wednesday and Thursday, and then was obviously there Friday and Saturday. I thought the drama was there. I thought we had shocks. I thought we had intrigue. There was mystique there all round the ties.
Well, we had shocks from the first round, didn't we? Because we had a lot of the big names that had come in expecting to do stuff all went out in the first round, and then when the seeds came in, half of them got dicked as well. So it was a tournament of shocks, thoroughly entertaining results, I thought. Unless the player that you particularly support went out, in which case, tough.
Yeah, 100%. One thing that I noticed straight away, and this isn't a negative, but certainly on the Friday night and Saturday night, it was perhaps a younger audience than we've seen at the Tavern before as well. It wasn't just people there for nostalgia and to reminisce. It was drawing a newer audience in, which is obviously great for the product, that this younger audience is coming in not just wanting to watch PDC darts, they are getting behind darts in general. So I thought that was a plus. The fact that it was sold out on the Saturday night was incredible. The atmosphere was absolutely bouncing, which was brilliant.
The atmosphere and again, like it's as good as I've experienced in darts. The atmosphere for Richie Howson's walk-on was
the Friday night was
absolutely unbelievable. I know he's local, and I know that he had friends and family in there, but I don't think they were all friends and family. I think word got round, and I just think that everybody sort of got involved. But like honestly, some of the walk-ons, Graham Usher coming out to Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer" in that room, that low ceilings when it was sold out, was just like genuinely like spine tingling. It was incredible, really, really impressive.
Well, it's absolutely no secret or surprise that a lot of the original World Seniors Darts Championship was built around Phil Taylor being back, wasn't it? Like you've got the big names, but the big draw to that was Phil Taylor returning to competitive darts for a couple of years.
When you get to see him
at the Circus Tavern in his den where he won all those championships. Yeah, brilliant. The reaction to Richie Howson's name on that Friday night was 10 times bigger than Phil got in any of the 2 outings that he put in that building. 2 outings. I can't remember if he played last year.
3.
Was he injured last year? 3.
Yeah, he lost to the German guy, Builder.
Yeah. The reaction Richie got on Friday night was insane.
100%.
If that man tells me one more time he's just a pub player on a good run with a backing like that, I'm going to shoot someone.
It was, like as I say, it was my first time in the venue. So it just was the gift that kept on giving, because I keep getting these little moments. Like it was some of it was, yes, nostalgia, good. Some of it is very nice. Good to see. There are players on the up in that though. Don't make no mistake. There are players playing in that format and in that tournament who are on an upward trajectory, like improving. They're not on the slide down. Yes, there's a few that are having their last hurrah, let's say, and there's a couple that we may not see again play competitively. I'm sure we'll see them in other places and other formats and exhibitions, but there's a couple of them maybe that we won't see on the competitive stage again, let's say, on a TV stage. But there's others that are trending the other way.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll talk about the production. And a few people have asked why no Bobby George. The honest answer is I don't know. We don't make those decisions about who the talent are and whatever. But what I will say is I thought Colin Lloyd and Phil did exceptional jobs in that punditry role. I thought
Colin in particular, because he's not been with the product for the full 4 years in and around it, etc. The way he took to that, I thought, was really, really good.
Yeah, and look, we all know, I love Bobby to bits. Such a character, love him. But at times, he has been away from professional darts for a while, and I thought Colin offered a real insight into that because Colin's still been around Sky and so on, working within it all. And I thought he did a great job, I've got to say, Lloydie.
Completely agree.
Yeah, his knowledge is really, really good, isn't it? And he was a massive addition to that lineup.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to ask you all. Well, no, actually, I'll tell you a lie. Before I'll ask you that. And look, it wasn't all nice and niceties as well. For the first time, we had quite a bit of needle up on that stage. And I'm not going to lie, I blooming loved it.
I was going to say, that's not a bad thing, Phil. This is a good thing.
Loved it. I tell you what, a couple of times, Leonard Gates didn't have a clue what was going on, but Graham Russell almost stared right through him at one point.
To be honest, he wasn't the only one that didn't have a clue what was going on at the time. I got asked to come off after the second set going, is everything all right between them? So I'm like, yeah, we're just playing darts.
Yeah, I heard the referee completely missed that one as well. But it was, but, and I tell you what, so what that tells me is one of two things, is they're either a bit raged and like to have a dig, or they actually care about winning. They actually, and we saw it in a few, we saw 3 or 4 games probably where we saw people sort of actively getting at it. And yes, predominantly the field is a bit more experienced. They've been around the block a bit. They know how to play the game, and they know how to keep their cool. But there was a few that just made me think, God, yeah, they really want this. Like they're really digging in. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the players that we saw a little bit more needle from and a couple of bits and bobs on stage ended up towards the back end of the tournament.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. I loved needle.
But I think both finalists throughout that last couple of days had moments of whether it be with the crowd or other players or each other, and there was definitely a few bits in there, and I think that's just maybe they really want it.
100%. Right, I would like your game of the tournament. Doesn't have to be the best game.
Easy.
If you could rerun any one and watch it again, what was your game of the tournament?
I'd watched Derek Coulson versus Mervyn King 6 days a week. I thought it was a fantastic game of darts.
I agree. I thought it was a very good game of darts, but it's not. I wouldn't go back to watch it over and over again just because it was good.
You missing class.
There's a few for different reasons. If I had to pick one, that's a bit shit. If I had to watch a game on repeat, it would probably be John Henderson and Chris Mason, because I just thought that game had a lot in terms of entertainment. But
you upset Mason enough with a draw, mate. Now you want to watch him get retired all over again.
Yeah, no, I want to watch him get retired on repeat. But you could I think you could give an honorary mention to probably Richard Burnett, Kevin Painter was highly entertaining, really entertaining to watch. There was a few. John Part against Jim McEwen was a nice watch. Like, that was a lovely game to watch. That very entertaining. Loads of them.
Yeah, I agree that I loved Chris Mason against Hendo, which we'll touch on in a minute more because of obviously what was associated to it. But give me Usher and Gates all day long. We had big finishes, crowd interaction, needle. I'm all for that. That's what the Tavern. Every time I think of the Tavern, I just think of Manly Lewis and bad glimpses of that.
It's that small stage as well, isn't it?
All day long.
Because the stage is that much smaller than what we used to maybe seeing if you go and travel around and watch PDC darts. They're so much tighter and there's so less space that when they does start to be a bit of needle between them, they're almost on top of each other.
Correct.
And they're so close that every time somebody turns around, it looks like they're going to shoulder into the other or walk into each other.
Oh.
And one's not quite out the way because some of them, I mean, like Graham Usher gets to the hockey so fast. He stands a pace and a half off the hockey when his opponent's throwing anywhere. And the moment his opponent starts walking, he's already there with his hand up. It's just class. Class.
Yeah.
All I heard was Phil say he'd watch the game that I was involved in all over again. So cheers, mate.
That's all right. Well, you're more than welcome. The fact that you knew nothing that was going on the stage makes it even better.
Well, I kind of did, but like I just didn't make that much of it. Like I was aware that there wasn't much of a handshake. I thought there might have been one while I wasn't looking, but it sort of was just like a little tap on the shoulder in the end. As for the stare, I genuinely thought Graham thought it was his throw. Found out it wasn't his throw. Was waiting to go back to the table, and it's like, what's going on the scoreboard? Like,
as they walked off for the break as well. But I'll tell you what. But when Graham went to that place, that the first five legs of that contest, it was one way. It was all Leonard Gates. Graham Usher wasn't in the game until that switch went, and it literally changed the whole complexity of the game. But let's go back to the one we've all spoken about. When Chris Mason is 2-0 down in sets and 2-0 down in legs, everyone's thinking the career has come to an end in that way. Roll on 45 minutes when we are 1-1 in the deciding set and Mace misses darts to break him. One of the greatest Tavern comeback in history was well and truly on.
Yeah, it looked on, didn't it? And John looked like...
Oh, Mason had John hopping.
Oh, yeah, John knew it.
Like,
I spoke to John straight after, and like he knew that he couldn't find it. And Mace was just coming at him, and all of a sudden Mace got really clinical. And it just didn't get close enough to be on a knife edge. But by God, that was some effort to come back and bring it as tight as it was.
Yeah, and it was almost a fitting way for Mace to bow out because of what he's done in his career, the games he's had, all the memorable games have been on a knife edge, and they've gone the distance. There's been comebacks, there's been ups, there's been downs. It's been a roller coaster, and he says it a lot. The sport has always dangled the carrot for him, and in his fair game, again, he can see the carrot being dangled in front of him as well. So it was almost like the perfect script writing, apart from the result for him.
Yeah.
So that's after the game. He went, that's the story of my career there. Just enough to keep you going. And then.
But what was interesting was in the media afterwards, Hendo's going to do his best to talk him out of this retirement. All I'm saying is good luck with that, John, because I don't see it happening.
I mean, he can try, can't he?
Yeah. But yeah, just fabulous. The semi-finals, I thought were interesting. Commentating on them, I don't know what you thought watching because you're in a different place to me. You're in the arena. We were obviously backstage. I thought for the first and only time, the occasion and the magnitude of the game got to Derek Coulson. I thought he'd been brilliant up until then, but it was almost as if he realised what he was on the verge of doing in that semi-final.
Potentially. I spoke to him after. I spoke to him a lot on this journey, actually, and just said he couldn't find it. Like, it wasn't overdoing anything. He just said it wasn't there no matter what he did. And then you find yourself behind to a player of Graham's quality, and he's got some on the wires, and the visits that were tons and ton 40s were just 60s as the game goes on, sort of thing. So he's in a good place to have made it in the first place, to have played the semi-final against the names of that caliber, and then to be heading to the UK Open next week. He feels really great about his game. He's a little bit gutted that he didn't give more of a game, but
Oh, I can fully agree. He's in a great place, but I just felt the body language, watching everything like that, was the first time that he thought where he was and what he was doing.
I think the problem was getting to that point where we went 2-0 down, because those first two sets were 3-2 sets. You know, like he was edged out, and what he struggled with, what Derek had done really well earlier in the tournament, and I had a bit of a chat with him about this as well while we were away, was he'd managed to get an early break in those sets, and he'd managed to grab an early break, and I think that just steadied him, because at that point he knows, if I just hold my darts, I've got the set, and the next set is on my throw. And on over 3 sets on a short format like that, I think the finish line gets in sight really quickly. And I think at 3-2 down and then 3-2 down, he's done the work. He can't quite make any inroads, and coming back from the break 2-0 down, knowing you've got to do 3, is a big ask and I think it maybe just became too big a task. And that it coincided probably with Usher just getting his foot down in that third set as well. Like that first leg, the first set back after the break, Usher averaged 107 in that first leg. He came out flying. I think the timing was bad. Set players awkward, isn't it? And if you come back from a set break with your head down, your opponent pings a big average, before you know it, the game's gone.
Especially, like, I don't think this is spoken about enough as a factor over the weekend. To have the ad break after 2 sets is not something you're used to seeing.
Not on a first to 3.
When you play set play, it's a break after 1 set, isn't it? So you get a chance to go away, reset yourself, and maybe one after 3 sets as well, or whatever. But to have that break when it's 1-1 or 2-2, I think makes a massive difference to a lot of the results over the weekend. Not just that one. If you breaks after 1, you can go, right, not my go, but I'm going to go away and get a rest, get a breather, get back up there, work my ass off to get that back or whatever. But to go in at 2-0 down, you know you're coming out, you have to win 3 straight. Like, I think it changes the players' mentality and how they chase the game that little bit more.
Richard, thank you very much for the super like, mate. Massively appreciate it. Thank you very much. And look, the other semi-final, when the odds came out, we all laughed, and the bookies got it so wrong.
We pissed our sides, didn't we? Like, the odds were... I mean, what was Montgomery? 4-1?
Beaton was 1-5. Ross was 7-2.
Jesus
Christ.
But
again, that's them pricing it off of name and reputation.
Exactly, yeah, but that's where you'll go wrong in something like this.
They did all weekend. Let's be honest. I sat here 2 weeks ago when Derek Coulson is 100-1 to win the Seniors World Championship. Usher went off at 33s. Montgomery was over 100s in the end. Beaton was the heavy favourite. And if we're being honest, of the 4 players that made it that far, the one who statistically was the worst player was Steve Beaton. And he was still the heavy favourite at every stage of that tournament.
Yeah. It was bonkers, and that Ross just did a number on him. The final was a real interesting one, because I've got a couple of bits on this, and again, this was just me watching it with Murph as we did comms on it, and again, you guys might think differently. Look, Graham, for me, never recovered from losing set 3 when he missed 10 set darts. Never recovered from that moment, coupled with, and when I say this, he hasn't broken any rules or anything like that, but from that moment, Ross played the game brilliantly, shall we say. Stage management.
Seen in a final of a World Championship or anything else, a player tell the other player to keep their head.
Yeah, it was remarkably played across a number of different ways, and he sort of did everything. He did everything that you would need to do to ensure victory, other than average more than 82, which is all he managed to actually chuck. I think the biggest moment in the game, in the final, was, whereas you thought was set 3 and Usher missing the darts, I think it was the other way. I think the biggest moment in the final was set 4, when Montgomery took out the 120.
Talk about this. I was going back in 2 secs.
Montgomery took the 120 out for 3-1. And I think at that moment, the finish line was in sight for Ross. Again, just hold my darts so I can lose. I can chuck a set away. I can chuck the set where I'm not on throw away. I can lose that. It doesn't matter. But that 120 in a set that Usher should have won again, getting that distance between him, because it was properly on a knife edge. And if that goes 2-2 from a Desmond, that goes either way. But I think with that 3-1 lead, all Montgomery had to do, to be fair at that point, and he did it very well, was manage Graham Usher. And as long as he could keep Graham Usher at arm's length, he knew he had that gap and he could just cruise to victory. And that is eventually what he did. And his darts were strong enough, and his stagecraft, let's call it, was strong enough. And he got the job done. But I think the key moment was that 120 in the fourth set.
Especially as of the two, the one that's going to produce that burst to really take a game away from an opponent is Graham Usher. He had that ability. We saw that, like you said, he averaged 14 dart leg as he comes out the break against Coulson earlier on. We saw that spell against Leonard Gates after losing 5 legs, where he went on a bit of a rampage as well. You never really felt like Ross was going to accelerate through the gears. He could pick off legs, and he did keep chipping away at sets, but some of those got tense and edgy, etc. It's a lot more difficult for a player to go on a rampage and take a set away from somebody when you're chasing, when every dart has to be perfect in their mind to get back into the game, let alone to reel off a couple of sets to make them favourite again in that position.
What I think he did a good job at, Ross, is, and he did this throughout the tournament as well. There was a couple of, he peaked a bit early, to be fair, funnily enough, even though he won it. The first game of the tournament was his best performance, averaging 95 or something, or was it 90 odd? And he managed a couple of, averages over 90. He was some way off that in the final, but what he managed to do in every game that he played is sort of find a level that was decent and stick at it. And he in game, he didn't peak and trough very much at all. There wasn't really much of a gap between when he was playing well and when he couldn't find it. He was relatively consistent all the way. And I think the problem some of his opponents had was, and Graham Usher certainly had it, was too bigger variance between finding their best and chucking something. When you just a really quick look down the numbers in that second set, Graham Usher did win it, but he goes from averaging 68 to averaging 136, but then it's rare when you look down the numbers that he manages to find just 2, 3, 4 in a row that are around 80s, 90s. He's peaking and troughing constantly, a 51 average, then 125 average, and the amount of darts it's taken him to get a leg done is varying so wide. Whereas all the way through the tournament, Ross Montgomery just seemed to consistently be able to sort of get around in 15, 16 darts, didn't arse about with too much, was clinical when he needed to be. There was that massive 156. I can't remember can you remember who he was playing when he hit that? Wasn't against Beaton, was it? Or was it Robert Thornton he played? He pinged, someone in the chat room will know. I'm sure he pinged a 156 towards the back end of, I think, the Robert Thornton game. So there was moments of greatness in there, and it's very hard to say that he didn't really deserve to win because everyone else is out. He's the only bloke that didn't get beaten at a game of darts that weekend, and that's what means you lift the trophy at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely bang on. But played really nicely. Some big shocks in it. Let's jump back a bit. Are we surprised at how difficult the big names found it, shall we say? Simon Whitlock coming in, big reputation on his back, made it all the way to the Saturday night final at the Super Series just a couple of weeks before. Mervyn King beaten by Derek Coulson, albeit really, really good game. Highest average of combined of the tournament. Who else was the other one that stepped down? Steve Beaton, obviously going through to the semi-final, but never really showing his A game at any point, did he, Steve?
He got nowhere near his A game.
No. Are you surprised at how difficult those three in particular found it?
I think that I think Mervyn King's a bit of an anomaly because other than the average that beat him in that opening game from Derek Coulson, that performance from Mervyn King in the opening round, it was the best. It was the second highest average of the entire tournament. So, he played better than everyone else played in every other game in the tournament. So I just think that's a bit of an anomaly. I don't think you can read too much into it. And it's like, I know we see it all the time. We talk about Premier League games with Littler, don't we? And we'll see, Luke Littler's been beaten 6-5. He averaged 108. Are we concerned about him? No. Of course we're not. He played superbly. It's just so he just didn't have the throw. That's all it was, that one. And so I don't read too much into it from Mervyn King. Whitlock, I mean, it's not going to damage him. Let's be honest. He's not going to get less invites to exhibitions. He's not going to not get an invite to the Super Series, etc., because he bombed out in the first round of this tournament. He's still got the name he's got and the image that he has, and it's not going to hurt his career. But he won't want that to become a habit, because there is only so long when you're not in in people's minds regularly, when you're not in the forefront, when you're not appearing on TV regularly, and you're only going to get on TV a few times a year. If that is just to get beat, sooner or later people will forget how good you were, and they'll forget to think of you as they did. So whilst I'm not too concerned about Simon, I think he needs to start winning games of darts somewhere quickly. And I don't know where that is. I don't know where he's... Phil might have some insight on where Whitlock's planning to play darts over the next 3 to 6 months. What the diary is like. Is it just exhibitions? Is he going to play competitively? Is he going to play challenge tour? What are we due to see from him? But I think he needs to start winning some games of darts.
Well, I know he's the big ticket name in the Australian Premier League, isn't he? He's going to spend some time down under competing in that, newly announced for this year. But the concern is that the form just isn't quite there for Simon Whitlock. Another player that we definitely need to talk about, and it's a good job Phil's just returned for this one, because I'm not sure I can talk about it, to be honest, because it feels a bit like when your dog's not very well and you take him out the back. Really, really disappointing and tough to watch performance from Martin Adams.
I knew you were going to say that, and I didn't really want to talk on this either, but...
And he struggled in the Super Series the last couple of times. He no longer plays week A's. Group A's has started to move to Group B's. His last couple of campaigns there have ended winless or maybe one win or etc. But the trusty rhythm to the throw seems to have disappeared that little bit more. Every dart is becoming that little bit more, requiring just a little bit more effort just to reach the board, etc., or sit up the way it is. There's a lot more variance. He had swapped away from those molded flights for a while, swapped to the Wolfie, 25 years at Lakeside ones. We saw the molded ones back this weekend, but it didn't make too much of a difference in the end.
No, and I spoke to him briefly, and he was gutted with himself because he didn't perform. And he said, look, I'm going to go back to the practice board and see if I can change this. So it may be a case of just not putting in enough effort. But
I'll ask the question, how much effort can a 68-year-old put in? I know that Paul Lim's a bit of a joke in that regard as well, but...
No, but it's no secret as well, because the interviews are on our channel. This isn't, conversations that have been had behind closed doors. If you search the interviews that we've had with Martin Adams, then you ask him how he is, and what time are we? The short answer is normally fucked. You ask Martin Adams how are you doing? You ask him seriously, he'll say, well, this is fucked. That doesn't work. My knee's knackered. My arm's gone. My elbow's fucked. My wrist's gone. And that's him being relatively honest. Now, that was a conversation that, we had with Martin probably a year ago. It only takes one. Realistically, if all of those things are bearing their weight on him being able to get up there and be competitive, it only takes one of those varying different issues to to get a little bit worse. And you can just see that the problem is, and the difficulty that he's got at this level now, the seniors level is increasing. Even the floor of what we're starting to see is coming up. We're getting new players into it. Yes, the format's slightly different with a tour and everything like that. But it's whether or not he can lift that game, because you're going to have to lift it higher than he has done for probably 3 or 4 years in order to be competitive. We have seen him pick up wins on TV this year in the seniors, but to a degree, I think he was relying on his opponent underperforming. I think when you look at those wins, it's where he's bumped into someone and they've particularly underperformed rather than that he's outplayed somebody. It's just...
And look, Martin is one of the greatest players to play. And I don't want to see him go out like this. I want to see him be remembered for Wolfie, the 3 times Lakeside champion, not this Martin Adams. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah,
because
without a doubt.
And I hope that maybe he gives it one more. He puts a load of effort in between now and the end of June, and we'll see. And look, if then nothing changes, then maybe I'd like to see him go, I've had an absolute glittering career. Thank you all.
There is opportunities as well. You know, we've seen Mace take up an ambassadorial role. I'm not sure what that involves specifically. You know, Martin's a clever bloke. He speaks very well. He's incredibly passionate about darts. He's very knowledgeable. You know, I would be shocked if there wasn't room for Martin, you know, as part of that or another setup somewhere.
100%.
Because it's not just like, it's not just for nostalgia reasons because he's won what he's won. Like, you know, when you listen to Martin talk about darts, he is massively passionate about it, hugely passionate about it, very knowledgeable about it. He's also, let's be honest, for half the people in the crowd, Martin Adams is the main attraction for half the day, because I've never ever experienced a player who is so giving in terms of the time he is willing to spend talking to fans. Like, yes, there are, you know, because normally we say like, oh, you know, that player's great. Like, he stopped for autographs. He did this. He did some selfies, and that must be a pain in the ass, but he did them anyway. Like, Martin sits and has conversations with fans, and it's a two-way conversation, and he's asking them about themselves, and he's asking them about their darts, and it's such a gorgeous thing to watch. It really is, because for a lot of people, like, I had some friends that came to the seniors in York. It wasn't too far away from us, and some friends of mine came down and watched the seniors. Like, afterwards, when they talk about it, like, being dead honest, they don't talk about like, well, that's when we saw this game, or that's the weekend we saw that. That's the weekend that we spent half an hour chatting with Martin Adams, and wasn't he a lovely bloke? So I'm sure that we will see Martin continually around darts. It's just a shame that, but realistically, you know, it happens to everyone, doesn't it? You can't do it forever. Nobody can do it forever.
No, the one thing is you can't outrun Father Time.
Exactly. And it's
no
all
matter
very
what
well,
sport you are, at some
it's
point.
sad, you know, but I can't run the 100 meters in 14 seconds anymore.
Can you not?
Not anymore. I can drive it. I can drive it in about 4.5. But it's just, you know, it is what it is, isn't it? Yes, it's sad, and it's different. The saddest thing about it is watching it live. It's not. It just, everyone knows it happens. People get older and they deteriorate, but watching it happen watching it happen live on stage isn't always entertaining.
Richard, thank you very much for the super like. And he says, "Good evening, everyone. Love the tavern, don't we all?" But yeah, all in all, a fabulous World Seniors.
A lot of taverners in the chat room, I think tonight we must have made a good impression on a few folks down at the tavern, because there's a few additional viewers and people in the chat room, I think, tonight that maybe found out about this show while they were down at the tavern.
Yeah,
but if you can believe this, Phil, some people didn't know this show existed.
What?
Exactly. I don't know how that happens in this day and age, this modern society. I don't know how people can miss this, but
looks like we need to be better with the marketing on social media, then, boys.
We go to
another level. I thought we did an okay job, but obviously not.
We need to get pushing it out. Again. We need to get into some more of these Facebook groups.
And
yes, can we end with a moan, please?
Yes, that's what I saw.
Yes, you've been waiting for this. You've been waiting for this.
What a knobhead. Don't get me wrong, that achievement in 1983 was great, but living off it for 35 years is getting a bit old. What is it now? 35? Must be more than that now. Good maths from the ref. 42 years. Jesus Christ. The absolute level of entitlement to believe that, once Vincent van der Voort withdrew, that there was a replacement necessary, which the tournament had already started. It was a little bit annoying, let's be honest, but nothing you can do. Rules are rules. When Tony O'Shea had to withdraw through injury the year before, no replacement was found. We played a session with 3 games, right? So then the rules. If Van der Voort withdraws a day before, whatever, then you can get a replacement in. Yes. The absolute level of entitlement to then believe that he'd be the first person to be called up after spending 6 months on social media slagging off the organisation for changing the age limit, having a pop on GB News whenever he fancies it, and then not turning up to the qualifiers, not supporting the tour in any way, and in the rankings that may or may not be used going forward, is absolutely nowhere near. What on earth makes him think like he would have been next to be called? David Cameron was next on the rankings. He's a major winner. He's the only one to have won a major in the seniors that wasn't there this weekend. With enough time, he'd have been flown in from Canada. Absolutely no doubt whatsoever. Scott Mitchell, former world champion, was at the qualifiers and supported the tour for the last year or so, whatever it didn't clash with playing for England. There's multiple other TV major winners, world champions, that have also done the same. Why on earth does Keith think we want to see those red trousers all over again?
But I even think, like, it sounds a bit harsh, doesn't it? I already know before I say this, it's going to sound harsh. Like, we shouldn't understate the achievement of winning a world championship, right? It's very special. It's very important. It's a massive achievement. However, right, when we are bringing players, and I'll go back to our Wikipedia table of like color-coded, this is what, if you go and look at anyone's history on Wikipedia, like if they go out in the first couple of rounds, it's blue. If they make a quarter-final, it's beige. Semi-finals are yellow. If they win some, it's green. There's those little boxes across the screen. And when we talk about people like legends of the game who have been invited to seniors events, and they've been invited to seniors events because, let's be honest, they're a big name and they're a name from the past and there's some nostalgia. Somebody like a John Lowe, for example, who's won fucking loads of pots. Absolutely loads of stuff. You can reel off his CV. Go and look at his Wikipedia and everything's fucking green. It's great because he's won so much. Keith Deller has won 1 pot. He's won 1 pot. It's amazing. It's a huge achievement. But never gone past the 3rd round in the UK Open. What, a semi-final run in the match play? Once. 1 semi-final in the match play. I don't understand. I'm happy to be called an amateur. Maybe I just don't have the knowledge that others do, or that Keith does.
I wish I had the same self-belief as Keith Deller and PRH.
I don't see where he puts himself. Yes, he has won a world championship. Great. But to think that you should be ahead of a lot of the people that he thinks he is ahead of, I think it's probably it's a bit confusing. I mean, he's an MBE as well, don't forget.
Which he took pride in posting a thing on social media the other day that he was one of only 3 MBEs in the sport or something, which was him, John Lowe, Eric Bristow, and then I was like, there's at least 3 others.
Yeah,
Trina,
but, and this is the difference, and I have to be really careful how I word this because I don't want to come across as a prick. Keith Deller's MBE is not for playing darts, right?
So
if you look at
charity.
Yeah. So if you look at others, you look at Fallon's, for example, like that is for darts. Other ones are for services to darts. Keith Deller's MBE isn't for darts. He still only won 1 pot. He didn't even win that medal. That wasn't a darts medal. That was just fun runs and stuff. He's a brilliant achievement. He's done a lot for charity. Like, but it doesn't. It's not a free pass to be a dickhead, is it? Just because I know loads of people that raise money for charity and they're still dickheads. Anything I've said, I don't think that at all. I don't think that. Oh well.
I've said some pretty rogue things on this show in my time.
I tell you what I'm looking forward
to. That might
eclipse
all of them.
I'm looking forward to getting on the old short format content editor tomorrow.
Brand new stuff. That's definitely going to be picked out as one of the clips as well.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
but listen then.
Philip.
Just because you raise money for charity, it doesn't mean you should be invited to the World Seniors World Championships. And also, if you act a prick, people might not want you around. That's just a lesson for everybody in life. If you are a prick, you will probably find you don't get invited places because people won't want to hang around with you. They won't want to sit in the room and have a pint with you. Like they just won't. And if you create an environment around yourself where people think, "Fucking hell, he's at it again. He's acting a prick," then you shouldn't be surprised when nobody wants to invite you to their do.
Correct. Right. From there, we're going to carry on the theme of this weekend because...
Hang on, the theme of what? Steady on.
No, just we're staying with this weekend before we move on.
The last thing you did was compare him to the biggest nonce of all time, mate. And you went, oh, carrying on with that theme? Jesus, man.
Currently... Beau Greaves sits top of 3 PDC order of merits.
Hey, it's I tell you what, it is highly impressive what she's producing at the minute. Because it's not just that, it's the way in which she's doing it as well. Like, to sit at top of the challenge, I mean, the women's series and the fact that she's at the top of that, like, it's not a surprise to see her at the top of that. We're used to seeing Beau top the women's series. We're fairly used to her, and we sort of expected it to be around the top of the dev tour, perhaps, because we sort of know the level she can play. We certainly know the level she can play on the floor. We know her floor game is incredible. But I think to be able to then replicate that on the Challenge Tour as well, amongst like so much experience and so many big names, because this isn't just, you know, young up and coming people that she's coming up against. She's playing against, you know, very, very recent tour card holders, people who had a tour card a few weeks ago. Loads of experience, really high level. I just think it's very, very impressive what we're seeing from Beau at the minute.
Look, 100%. And we saw this line on social media a lot over the weekend. Does this now mean that women can compete with men?
Always has done.
But
don't get me started on someone else who was famous in the 80s for playing darts, who now spouts shit on Twitter.
The phone crash.
Look, also a couple of bits off of this. At the moment, it is looking extremely likely, through whichever means that be, that Beau is on course for a tour card, whether that's from the Dev Tour, the Challenge Tour. If she carries on in the way that she is, the only way she doesn't get one is if she doesn't play the events.
whilst she's playing amazingly, I'm not convinced that I think it's too early in the year.
I'm just thinking though, that look at the tallies of money that it took last year. She's already over halfway there. And I look at the Dev Tour, with the way the rules have changed.
Yeah, I suppose
that
the rules will have an effect, won't
that
they?
Dominated it. The high-end tour card holders, shall we say, your Jan van Veens and so on, they're not there. Yes, look, there is still incredible talent there, but those big hitters from the Pro Tour are not there.
Yeah, you're right. And when you look through that top 10 at the minute, you look and think, well, who's going to consistently outdo her?
Correct. It's not a case of thing. It's a case of who's going to consistently.
That's it. So anyone can beat anyone, but even amongst that top 10, who is likely to consistently outdo Beau Greaves? Sebastian Bielecki is capable. Like
he has a tour card, so even if he finishes in the top 2, it would go down.
He has, he's carrying one, isn't he?
He's just new to it, so he's still playing until he makes the top 64.
Yes, of course. That's why he's still there.
Correct.
Daniel, that's an incredibly backwards point of view.
Daniel, that is the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard in my life.
But
also,
disagree.
Look, the PDC have had this dilemma for the last few years that their top lady, who has won the match play and topped the Women's Series Order of Merit, has turned down a World Championship spot. Now, effectively, Beau could be turning down 3 World Championship spots. Look, I know she'd only get 1, but it would be...
Yeah, from multiple...
technically going to have won 3 different spots.
Yeah, it technically opens up 3 different spots for other people, which means we could see some rogue entries to Alexandra Palace this year.
But the other point is, if she continues to play this well, win this amount of tournaments, does this perhaps swing her thinking into picking Alexandra Palace over Lakeside?
No. Why would it?
Just asking the question. I said, would it? I didn't say it would. I said, would it?
Unless first round losers prize money at the World PDC World Championships is more than the first prize for the Women's World Championship, why on earth would she go anywhere else?
Well, that brings me on to my next point, because we are expecting someone in March, as Barry said, the announcement of increased prize money. We all know that the World Championship is the first tournament as part of the new Sky deal. There has been a lot mentioned that it will go up to $1 million. If you're upping the prize money, then are you if you're effectively doubling it? Are we being naive to think that they double everything?
No, because then you'd have to. No, because you have to double.
Naive to think they're doing that.
Yeah, you'd have to double the. So at the minute, the prize fund, if you like, the total prize fund spread across every player and every win is £2.5 million. Now, making that first prize $1 million takes it to £3 million. But when the sums at the bottom end are big, because you're going to have 32 first round losers. So at the minute, what are they on? $7.5 grand. So I can't do the maths quick enough in my head. So that is £250,000, right? So at the minute, your first card loser money alone is 32 people share £240,000. So if you're going to double that, if you double first round loser money, you need to find another £500,000. That increases like as you go, as you go.
Correct, but you think this new Sky deal is huge.
It may well be, but what you're not going to do is burn through that coffers for one event. You've got bigger issues on your Pro Tour. If you then whack up that significantly at everything, you're fucking stupid, in my opinion.
Well, just to do, if
this
you
is
double...
your ticket to fix your tour, not to brag about your top tier or look at us for giving out a £1 million prize fund.
Yeah, but you've heard the line constantly, and I know you don't like it. The line constantly is, if the top of the tour is flourishing, it filters down and everything else works. That's the approach they're taking.
If that was true, then people wouldn't fucking be in a position where they can't afford to be a tour.
I was about to say, but look, I know you don't like it, but that is the line they are going with and consistency saying. So we have to live with it. It's not going to change.
It's not true.
But it's not going to change, is what I'm saying. We've seen that, and if you up the world's money, then every other winner fund, as in the winner's check for every other major, will increase because it has to. Otherwise, your rankings become even more lopsided than they already are.
That's why I just don't think we will see that big jump at the bottom end of tournaments. I think we don't see that, do we? Like, let's be honest. When do we sit here talking about all the good things that are done for 64 to 128? Like we don't, do we? We don't like. Correct. So the idea that first and second round losers money is going to go up considerably, because
even if the first round is 10 grand, right? It goes, what is 7.5 now, isn't it? Say that goes to 10. Is it, what is it, 10 and 15, 7.5 and 15, or 7.5 and 12.5?
7.5, 15, 25. That's the first
right. So say that goes to 10 to 20, right? As an up, we're just playing the figures here. At the moment, we don't know what that Lakeside prize money is going to be. The prize fund went down last year as a whole. Now, are they going to learn? Because there was quite a lot of stick for keeping those top prizes the same. Now, if the prize fund goes down again, surely money has to come off the top end of the Lakeside fund, because the bottom end is already at an absolute bare minimum. So all of a sudden, that 25 grand for the ladies one may only become 15. Then has Beau got a decision to make?
Yeah, if that top prize comes down significantly, so it gets close to what the PDC are offering first round, then yes, there is a decision to make. But as long as there is 17 grand difference, she'd be stupid not to go after the Lakeside, because she's firm favourite for it. Is already a 3-time world champion. Is one behind Lisa Ashton, who's considered an all-time great. Beau's not even old enough to get off the Dev Tour yet. And if that keeps going, there's a chance to rack up those titles.
That is the interesting thing, is it all depends on how much she wants to go and make a name and a career and a potential, because let's be honest, there's nothing guaranteed, a potential fortune on the PDC, when I don't imagine that life is too uncomfortable at the minute for Beau Greaves, winning consistently, earning probably as much as virtually anyone else without a tour card will this year. If she continues the same, there will not be many people without a tour card that earn more than her this year. And if then she chooses to stay doing what she's doing, because again, I think it's so easy to get carried away, because we've seen Luke Littler so young go at things so impressively. There is almost a clamour, I think, for young people to be in the PDC and going and winning massive trophies. When we can sort of keep in mind that, all being well, Beau's got 30 years left of a career? Like, she might not want to spend 30 years in the PDC. She might want to get there and go there and win things. But there is an opportunity for that she's got at the minute where she could genuinely book herself into history, break all sorts of records, make a very good living from it. And then at any point in the next 5, 6, 7 years, decide I'll go and do this PDC thing and still be younger than half the people on tour anyway. I'm not so sure she'll do it.
No, I was just asking the question. Like, I'd love to see Beau at Ali Pally. That's why I was asking.
I agree. Don't get me wrong. As a fan, I'd like her to get a tour card and play on the telly all the time. Like I would. I think it would be good for the women's game. I think the more that it's like anything, I think the more that girls see, especially younger girls playing darts on TV, it is a good thing. Like, we have seen a huge, huge increase in the uptake of youth darts since Luke Littler got on the telly. I think the more young girls that we can get onto TV playing darts, the better. And it will bring more young girls towards darts. They aren't, unfortunately, the thing is, you aren't going to get loads of young people tuning in to watch Lakeside. Unfortunately, different crowd. It's a different crowd. They're not getting into the TikToks. They're not getting into the young people's Instagrams, young people things. And that's the only, I think for me, it's unfair to put it on a person to want them to be a catalyst for change in a sport. Like, it's not a burden that other people should have to bear. And we moan about people doing that to Luke Littler. I mean, almost making him carry the sport and be responsible for it. But I'd love to see her get on the telly and play more and win stuff on the TV, just because I like the idea of it encouraging a lot more girls to play darts.
So just on that, and we're going off topic here slightly, but if Lakeside isn't available to the WDF after this year, we know it's there this year, but when we were there, December just gone, there was a lot of talk that potentially they're going to have to look for a new venue. Not their choice, obviously, since everything that's gone on and once the will gets sorted out of Mr. Potter. But if Lakeside isn't then an option for the WDF, is Lakeside the only thing holding players to it and to that organisation?
Players that are of the standard of Beau Greaves, yes. Players that are of the standard of, for example, Thomas Youngens, to pick a name out of nowhere, no. Because the Federation darts are what is big in the home nations. Until something like the ADC goes truly global, or PDC branches out and you get Challenge Tour attracting these players into the UK or wherever it's based a lot more, then no, I don't necessarily feel like that is the case. People are going to want to play darts forever. Darts is growing worldwide at a ridiculous rate. And quite frankly, the PDC does not cater for everybody who is growing to love this sport. Well, it never has done. It's a promotional company. It's not a governing body. They're not there for the best interest of what happens between me and Dan in the local league on a Tuesday night. They're not a grassroots governing body. They never have been and never will be. The WDF will still have to have a pathway of some sort or an alternative along those lines.
If you run a tournament with a cash prize, some people will come and play in it. If I run a tournament in Middlesbrough, where it's social, if I pick a social club in the town and say, I'm going to run this darts tournament, this is the prize money, people will look at that and think, okay, hell, that's a few quid. Then they might have a look at what standard of players they're likely to meet and make a decision on whether or not they can be asked to travel to Middlesbrough and play in that tournament. Like, I think if you remove the Lakeside as a venue, it then just becomes a tournament like that. It is just a cash tournament, and those who have a choice as to which they'll do will go with the tournament that either works best for them, they think they're most likely to win, logistically is easier, or pays the most money, depending on what they're looking for. I do think that whilst it's at the lakeside, there will be players who will overlook the logistical things and all the different criticisms that people come at the WDF for their World Championships. People will overlook that for the opportunity to call themselves a lakeside champion, because there are people on the circuit that find that to be an important title, albeit a nostalgic one, to be able to add to their CV. If you take that away, it's just, I don't see it as being any different to any other tournament that's got a cash prize. I do think it's going to be what will be interesting is whether without that let's say the lakeside goes right, and we haven't got this, because that is the last thing that makes it look like what it used to be. If we're honest, isn't it? The last thing is whether or not the PDC will then continue to hold the line on players playing in both events. Because I think it's a fucking stretch to point at that event as anything even remotely similar or connected to what it used to be if you lose the venue. And how much can you be threatened by it?
Look, I think we're all in agreement that...
Well, of course.
That we'd all love to see Beau playing in both, 100%. And it's interesting that the Tom Nord was brought up, and do I agree? Do I think it was used as an excuse? Yeah, 100%. It was the fact that they moved it before the showpiece, so eyes were on that before the build-up for Ali Pally. So they were like, it's our ball, and we're not playing.
I am convinced that is not the last time we see that particular legislation used.
I find it. I tell you what.
Are you relating to the global championship?
I tell you what I think is bollocks, because it's punching down. Like, there is nothing quite as classless as punching down. And because everybody knows that these organizations are not in any way, shape, or form a threat to take 3% of the PDC's market share. They just aren't. Like, they are not. They are a different thing altogether. They are not a threat. It's it feels like they might have a different. I know Matt Porter has a different view. It feels like punching down to me, and that's what I think. Like, I have so much. And it's on record everywhere criticizing WDF and all sorts of different things. But I still think at the core of what that organization is and should be, regardless if you point at individual people and you can say, well, he's fucking doing that for the wrong reason, or that's not the right way to do things. What those organizations are, like they are darts organizations who should be trying to do their best to boost the game of darts. Like, the PDC should be thinking, the more feeder systems we've got, the better. I know they like their own feeder systems, Dev Tour, Challenge Tour, etc. But like, the more darts, the better. And I don't get why. Like, it's the equivalent of, like, when you hear of, like, Amazon and Apple, and they go and fucking sue a bloke because he's got an Apple shop and he's called it the Apple Store and he sells fucking fruit, like that, like, because that's bollocks, isn't it? It's utterly ridiculous. But yeah. Apple will send fucking legal letters and try and close the bloke down. You think, like, Jesus, it's punching down, packing. You're doing fine, and these people aren't threatening you in any way. So let them play their games of darts.
So, yes, Rob. So beforehand, because the PDC World Championships fell first, it was then down to the BDO / WDF to enforce it, and they obviously chose or would have chose not to. But because the PDCs then is last in the list, they choose to enforce it.
What I'd say to that, Marcus, is that history is written by the victor. Like, I don't think you can point at the BDO and the WDF and say, well, all those years ago they transgressed. And like, there was a split, and that split was like, you know, there were people on both sides of that split, and they all did things that were to the detriment of the other at points. And a lot of that was a fucking long time ago, and many, many millions and millions and billions of pounds ago.
Well, yeah, look, it financially crippled both organisations at the time. Let's be frank.
Yeah, but one of those organisations is far from financially crippled these days.
Yeah, go on, because it got bailed out by Barry, wasn't it? At the time, when they got Barry involved, they were paying winners in shares. It was Barry's money that got them out the hole at the time. Look, now they are where they are, but at the time it was all down to that.
Yeah, but the organisations aren't the same. You know, the people aren't the same.
I agree.
It's a different organisation. It's different people. Like, the only thing, like I said, the only thing that's left is the fucking roof on the venue. Like, it is the building. That's it. You take the building away, it's gone, isn't it? It doesn't exist.
Yeah, 100%. Look, it's an interesting one. I know we digressed off of talking about how good Beau was, topping all three rankings at the moment. Irish eyes were smiling on Gerwyn Price. I know you boys have you watched any highlights or anything from the Premier League this week? I don't know if you caught any of it. That's why I
got back into Teesside at about 4 o'clock yesterday. And I'd been in the tavern for 14 hours a day before every day before that. So no, I'll tell you what, I've literally seen results and I've seen averages, and that, I'm afraid, is about it.
Gerwyn Price was brilliant all night.
It was a rogue final. I don't think anybody picked the final at all, did they?
I got one of them. I said Price would be in the final, but I didn't get the other one.
I said Price would be in the final last week on this show.
Yeah. Look, Price was brilliant all night. And look, this has been coming. This has been building from Gerwyn Price. This isn't all of a sudden, where's this come from? He's been gradually getting better, gradually getting back to the Iceman that he was a few years ago. And it was great to see. Beating Littler, Humphreys, back-to-back games, beating the world champion and the world number one is not something that's been done too often by players.
No, he was due, wasn't he? Like, I picked him last week to get to the final. In fact, did I pick him to win? I think I picked him to win, you know. I'm going to have a look at last week's show, and if it is, it's going out short form tomorrow, because I'm fairly sure that I'll be able to stitch them together. I'm certain. I know I picked him to make the final. I'm virtually certain now that I picked him to win. So shows what I know more than everyone else, it seems.
I'll tell you what was funny is Sky did Littler up a treat as he was coming off from defeat. He launched his case down the stairs in disgust with himself. And I'm pretty sure that if he was only 17 still, they wouldn't have showed that clip.
Yes. All of a sudden now he's fair game, isn't he?
It's looking that way.
Previous editorial rules do not apply anymore.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong, I like to see that passion that he's annoyed with himself. I haven't got a problem with it, but I'm just pretty sure that
his safeguarding lead has now been made redundant. He's just open to he's open to any abuse that comes at him.
No safeguarding officer now needed.
No, that's gone.
Are we getting a little bit worried about Stephen Bunting? Yeah, look, he's averaged a ton, but it's still pointless. He's got Littler in Exeter this week. Are we a little bit concerned yet?
Right, yeah, he was one of my top three. This was Luke, and Stephen going into this tournament. A bit like I thought Rob Cross last year was going to be able to just go under the radar. He was playing really nicely, had built up form on the way in, went into the Premier League with Bully Boys struggling and Gerwin Price's record and Peter Wright, etc., etc. And actually, Rob Cross became one of those last year. It became pretty split. And look, the longer it goes on, the longer you're chasing around. We've seen that even in completely different situations. Trying to get over the line becomes more and more difficult the longer you haven't done it for. Look at things like Ettore Stiliano at the Super Series last week. Just didn't happen at all because you're chasing constantly. Peter Washiri getting over the line in the 5th game today. That could have been in game 2 earlier on, and he could have unfolded and had 4-6 points in the end. So, yeah, I do think Bunting's form's a little bit worrying, especially going into Minehead next week as well. I think one thing we need to consider is players like Luke Humphreys have they have complained, actually, that some of these venues are so big, so open that you can't do a lot about the draft. Now, whilst Bunting hasn't specifically complained about this, and he has gone up a considerable amount of weight in his darts, he does still throw the lightest darts of any of the 8 by far.
I think... I mean, we said last week, I said last week I was worried about him because he was pointless after a couple of weeks and his fixtures were just very tough. Like, his fixtures are tough. And it started to look like because it's like anything where you've got a league form, you can look at where you can pick up points. And it's become harder to see where Bunting can, the obvious points at which he can pick some points up and grab a bit of a leap up the table. It feels at the minute, I don't know what anyone else thinks, but that World Masters win a year gone feels a long time ago now for Bunting. It feels like that was a long, long time ago. And we've watched him, for most of last year, 2nd round of the match play, 1st round of the Grand Prix, 1st round Europeans, 1st round Players' Championships. He's done little since then. The semi-final in the World Championships, yes, that's big, but he has not been able to consistently find a good level. When you look at the last year that he's had, it's snatchy. And that is not what the Premier League's all about. What the Premier League's all about is being able to compete at the top level every week for an extended period of time. You've got to do this for 16 weeks. Now, Bunting was on a lot of people's list, regardless of who won other stuff. People would have Bunting over someone rogue that won the world, and I didn't hear anyone making a case, for Dedeker, Heta, other players that I arguably had a shout, but everyone who was arguing for them still had Bunting in their list. Bunting was still in everyone's list. But I think he's really struggling. And I think he's going to continue to. I don't see where it turns.
I think by the time it does turn, it may be too late.
I agree.
Again, this is why the current format is crap. Because if it doesn't turn, it will be too late. But he's then got to do this for another 15 weeks. Nobody's getting anything out of that at all. This is where there needs to be some sort of judgment night or whatever. Look. It didn't always go down to judgment night, but the fact there was something on the line for those first 10 weeks gave us something to clamour to. Or who's going to go? Look, you might know after week 7 that Barney's not going to return after the Premier League, but it was still important. And if they suddenly start winning 2 games on the spin, then it's a possibility. There won't be that urgency. And all right, 5 points is a lot for winning the night, and you can still pull it back a long way into this format, but it just doesn't feel like there's
He's not
enough
in the form where he
start.
goes and wins 3 nights on the spot, or 3 nights on the spin, like Luke and Michael have all done.
Yeah. Well, he could rock up to Newcastle on night 8 and go, that's it. My Premier League, I'm not winning this. I'm really looking like I'm not going to make the top 4. So I'm just going to go through the motions for 10 weeks. 10 weeks is a long time to be going through the motions.
And we have seen it.
Bunting's not one of those characters. I think he would still give it everything.
He might well be, but like there's no charge for it. Do you know what I mean? He might play better with the pressure off. Who knows?
He wasn't on
If I was
everyone's...
him, I'd certainly be making TikToks every week as well and building up his brand image at the same time.
Fucking hell, David.
Yeah.
Leave that alone.
Look, Nathan Aspinall got to the final. His game against Michael, he played brilliantly. His game against Rob was nothing short of fucking awful from the pair of them. But he won.
So yeah, I was going to say he still won. Now and again, what we've seen him play awful and lose. We've seen him play very well and lose. Sometimes you just have to get over the line, don't you? And
what he did. And he looked a completely different player after winning that game. I think the pressure on that game was huge, but he found a way to win it and then looked completely different the next one. So, look, moving on to the cowshed in Exeter ahead of the UK Open. The quarterfinals are Michael van Gerwen against Rob Cross, Gerwin Price against Luke Humphreys, Chris Dobie against Nathan Aspinall, Stephen Bunting against Luke Littler. So, let's start at the top. MVG Rob Cross, what are we saying? Chat room, get involved as well.
Trying not to be boring, but I'm not sure Rob Cross has got it in him this week. No, but how quick does Michael van Gerwen want to get to Maynard? That's the question. Is who wants to get to Minehead the fastest? And in that case, I will go Rob Cross wins 6-4.
Gob,
this will not be a classic in terms of level.
Rob Cross wins 6-2.
I still think MVG wins this one. I just don't think Rob Cross is playing well enough at the moment. MVG 6-3.
Do you think Cross won more titles than anybody else in 2025 so far? Have I just made
do you think Michael?
You should have seen how poor he was last week.
Do you think Michael will have his suitcase with him on the stage?
No, I'll be in the car ready to go.
Get straight in the car, have his backpack on.
Get him in Price, Luke Humphreys, and look, Gazzy got the better of him last week. Good game. Looking forward to this one.
This will be revenge and not a repeat. Luke Humphreys will win this game 6-3.
Yeah, revenge for me also. Let's remember, Luke Humphreys has particularly fond memories of Exeter. This is where he made his debut as
beat Gary Anderson, first contender to win.
But he made his debut there the year before as a contender. And got a draw as well, I think. So he's 2 from 2 there. He played pretty well there last year from memory, Dan. We were there. I was a bit pissed by then.
I mean, to be fair, if you were a bit pissed, I was probably a lot pissed.
We were driving.
Oh, yeah.
Just legal reasons, Darren.
It was just I was just very pissed for the 3 days following that I'd forgotten that fact.
Yeah, we got pissed afterwards discussing politics till 3 a.m. in the hotel room, and then maybe we're late to check in. But you definitely weren't pissed while we were in Exeter.
No, at the time I remained sober. But I shut out most of that weekend afterwards. So I'm afraid I'd killed a lot of brain cells that week.
I am going for revenge as well. I'm going for Luke Humphreys 6-4. Chris Dobie against Nathan Aspinall. We'll just ask Dan, how many legs are you giving Aspinall?
Just the one. Because I'm feeling generous. UK Open week, it gets me in a good mood. I'm feeling generous. He can have a leg, can Nathan Aspinall?
Go on.
Asp 6-4.
Behave.
I'm going Dobie 6-4.
That's more like it.
Bunting against Littler.
I think it's
You know what? Despite that build-up and that chat we've just had,
not in that building.
I'm the head-to-head record.
You talked about a breeze.
Bunting,
That's
6-4.
fucking outdoors.
Bunting 6-4.
I think that's wild. I think if we wanted to, like some of these venues with a draft, like that place hasn't got a draft. It's a convertible darts venue. 6-2, Littler.
6-3. And I'm also predicting we don't see gold darts this week. I think we'll go back to the black ones.
Yes. Yeah. Good prediction.
From your predictions, I would like your finalists and winner.
Right. Will he? No, he won't. Neither will he. Boring Dan. Boring Dan is going to go with the Lukes. Humphreys wins 6-3.
Gob?
He does win, but he beats Bunting 6-2 in the final.
The Lukes, I agree. And I am going for a Humphreys win as well. 6-4. Before we move on, this is a good point, and I don't know what people think. Is there an argument for the Exeter Premier League night to be played on a Wednesday night to allow players to prepare properly for Minehead?
It's a nice
team to get there, who are now based in London.
It is a nice point, Warren. I think there are lots of people that wrap up the trip. It's a bit, and I don't know whether you would get that many. Could you sell out Exeter if you didn't have Minehead the next day? With people that weren't making.
Yeah. I think you could.
Think you'd still sell it out?
Yeah.
On a Wednesday night.
Well, even more so if it becomes. Is it ever going to become Bristol?
We can hope.
If it goes to Bristol, then you just immediately make it a Wednesday. I think. Like you could. I'm not saying you would, but you could make it a Wednesday. It'd make everyone's life fucking easier. Surely, even the people that just generally move things and carry the boxes and set things up, everyone's life will be better if you just had one anomaly in the It's not affecting anything, is it?
That told you, by the way.
Oh, there's the inside track, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
How we doing, Anthony? Good to have you in. Oh,
it's the bling
blings,
the bling edition. That's what it should be sold as, the bling edition.
To be fair, at some point in the next, it'll be soon. We will have the new Target Luke Littler World Championship editions coming out.
Of course we did, yeah. And how terrified do you think I am about that? Because every time Luke plays with a new set of darts, I've got Billy watching the fucking telly, haven't I? Wanting another set. Mate, I got rinsed at the bastard shop in the tavern. I ended up coming back with baseball caps and all sorts of stuff for him. Every time this is the problem. Unfortunately, they don't think about poor people like me.
Every time Luke, you pay it. You pay for Anthony's takeaway each week, mate.
Every time Luke goes, I'm picking. Every time Luke goes out with throwing a new set of darts, it's people like me who's having to pick a set up for their kids. Torture. If you could just pick one set and stick with him, that'd be delightful. It's simply having to do every Christmas and bloody birthday.
To be fair, Big Johnny, I am well up for this one. So from there, all roads do lead to Minehead. Look, this is the one tournament that is almost impossible to predict.
Might be for you.
Because there's about 12 people in East Anglia, Gringo, that's why.
Plus, I don't know if there's a venue big enough. Look, I'm not from East Anglia. I know we do have a lot in there. Is there a venue big enough in East Anglia to hold an event?
Bear me a second. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
And from what I know, folks from that region tend to have too many digits to be able to hold a dart comfortably in their hand.
No, Jar. That's not very nice, is it? So the draw for the first 3 rounds of the UK Open are done. So when Dan gets back, there's a few belters in the first round to look at. We're also hoping, wait a minute, where is it? That a couple of results go the right way, because we could have some comical ones. We need Thomas Lovely and Lee Cox both to win their first game, because then we can have Lovely Cox playing.
Grow up.
Oh, we're talking about Lovely Cox?
Yeah, you see, Dan knows.
I thought I'd come back to a different stream then. That's the YouTube show I do on a Thursday, that one.
Dear. Yeah. Yes, we are, Anthony. There'll be a World Championship range. But right, now Dan's back. The first round is out. I would like your tie of the first round games.
Right, hang on then. I have to get them in front of me, don't I?
There's a couple for me.
Right. Which year? 2025?
Correct.
Right. Right. The best first round game is potentially, in terms of the level we could see from both players, like or just how excited we are to see them. It depends on the answer. It's difficult to not look forward to John Henderson against Graham Usher, because we've just bloody seen it. So that'd be kind of, well, we've seen them two engage in the same tournament, like we've seen them on the same stage. So that's an exciting one. Wesley Placier and Cam Crabtree could be of a really high level. That could be a massively impressive game. I will be wanting
Beau against Belmont.
Coulson against Labanauskas. So will Gob. There's a lot. There's a lot to enjoy there.
100%.
Scott Baker, Andreas Harrison's a good one.
Yeah. I like that.
In fact, that board is Owen Rolos, Tom Sykes, and then Charlie Manby, Hayden Kirk. Charlie Manby had 130 average on the Dev Tour this weekend.
I was going to bring that up later on, but yeah. 130.
Later on, it's 20 to 10. 130.
That's mad.
Oh, do you know what? We could looking, and I know I've rolled ahead a little bit here, but we could get John Henderson or Graham Usher against Raymond van Barneveld. That's impressive, isn't it? That's cool. We can look forward to that.
Yeah.
Darryl Pilgrim, if he comes through his little section there, he would meet Matt Campbell in the third round. That's a game I would like to watch. That's just in terms of styles and how people play on stage. Like, I think there's a lot to enjoy about Pilgrim against Campbell.
There's potential of a round 3 tie between Henry Coates and Connor Scott.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, Henry's got to get through Danny Van Tripe and then Barry Van Peer, I think. But yeah.
I mean, I think if you get to the third round, it's difficult to overlook in terms of like a game that. Why on earth would you not want to go and watch this one? In the third round, Scott Williams and Wessel Nyman. That's a proper pick of a game that's already nailed on. That's there's no who's and ifs and whats on that one. That's happening.
Ron, I don't know why there's 162 registered. Without going through all the names, there might be some duplicates in there or something. But yeah, I agree. I also look at there's a couple of big games as well that Ricky Evans against Gabriel Clements is big for both of them because they're kind of in that same similar ranking region.
Yeah, it'll be or you expect it to be competitive. You know, like if they're both on their A game or they're both on their B game, you sort of expect it to be around about the same level, don't you? It's gonna be competitive, or you'd like to think it would be anyway.
Yeah, money starts, Johnny, in the last 1, 2, 8.
Again, mental that some of these players travel for a TV major and don't get paid for it.
I agreed. That again, that everyone has qualified for this tournament.
Oh, where's he gone?
I'm with you. Martin Lukeman, Jim Williams. Look, Jim Williams is on the verge of losing his card, not down to ability, down to just not playing enough.
Can we not mention Martin Lukeman? Because that's possibly the most gutting thing about this weekend, if we don't get to go.
If we don't, then he could get back on Sunday to find me and Gob just in his garden.
Shouting Martin
Shouting at him when he gets out the fucking Uber. He'll get out an Uber and just find us two pop up behind his edge, shouting at him.
What you do, if you send us a voice recording, I'll just go and play it as he's walking onto his board.
That's what we need. Oh, dear.
But no, look, in terms of the UK Open itself, look, we can't predict the draw or anything because it's done round after round. But look, Andrew Gilding is obviously defending winners' money. Big for him.
Yeah, it's monstrously big. And it's incredible. It's difficult, isn't it? Because every other tournament that we talk about, we can like plot a route for different people at this point, and you can start to talk about who they might potentially bump into. Like, some people could have a piece of piss run through to a semi. You know, we've seen some ridiculous runs where people have made quarterfinals and have played in the kindest way nobody. Or you could have to work your way through the top 4 to get through to a quarter final. It could be. It's fun, but it's hard to fucking predict.
Oh, 100%. So, bearing in mind, we don't know. This is a wild stab in the dark. Who have you got getting to the final of the UK Open, boys?
God, we haven't even got 2 sides of a bracket, have we?
That's what I mean. So this is a
right. Well, the difficulty is if the Lukes. I feel like where he's at, behave, Ricky. Stop it now. I think for the UK Open, you've got to expect the big boys will bump into each other early, and it's what everybody wants. Like, because that's the entity. That's the difference. That's what makes it special. That's what makes it fun. I feel like if you're going to make a pick here, you've got to come outside of the top four. You've maybe got to come slightly outside of the Premier League. Just because otherwise it's not interesting, is it? Like, you can be as dull as you like, but I'm not sure it is. And I think Damon Heta could make a final. He made a semi-final last year, and I think he could. He's got the game. He can play and compete with everyone. I think we have seen him struggle on a big stage. The game he produced against Littler last year was absolutely monstrous, like absolutely unbelievable. And I'll go with Littler. Sorry, I will go with Heta to be in the final with Luke Littler.
Just looking at the previous years, because there's always some randoms, or not randoms, but surprises get. What are you saying, Job?
They go deep, don't they? But the finals are never too rogue, though.
2 years ago, we had Burnett in the quarterfinals and Gavlas in the semi-finals.
Yeah, that ain't happening again.
The other one as well is they all can't play on the main stage. And we all know, look, there are some egos, and some of them will have the ump about playing on board 2 and so on.
Oh, tough, because board 2 is better. Board 2
This
is
is the first time ever we see Van Gerwen kicked off the main stage.
No.
Are you sure?
I would be very, very shocked if we saw MVG in Reds.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't see a scenario.
Unless there's a couple of real heavyweight ties and he's got some world number 104.
It's possible, though. You've got to put the world champ on there.
Yeah.
Realistically, you've got to put the world number 1 up there, regardless. That takes priority over Van Gerwen. You're not moving Luke Humphries.
Humphries Littler will be on main stage.
Then if you get, for instance, Peter Wright, Gary Anderson, and Gerwin Price against Stephen Bunting.
I cannot see a scenario. Like, I
don't see it.
I honestly, I don't think it matters where he is in the world. As long as there's a hole in my ass, Michael Van Gerwen will play on the main stage. I just don't see any scenario where they drop him onto.
That's the other thing. First round, Dimmy should be on the main stage. They did it last year, didn't they, with Gilding? They buckled to the pressure after not doing it with Noppert the year before.
But they didn't do it with Noppert. So it's not a guarantee the defending champion is on the main stage. I agree he should be, but I don't think it's a guarantee.
Back to my pick. Oh, I don't know which one. Johnny Clayton makes the final.
I don't dislike it.
It was which Welshman? And do you know the only thing I think that stops Clayton making the final
Is if he draws Price en route.
is if he draws Price en route. His record against Gezi is shocking.
Oh, horrific.
But everyone else, I'm like, do you know what? Yeah, sound. I think he's got it. Johnny will lose to Luke Humphreys in the final with a surprise run to at least the quarters, maybe further for Jermaine Watamena. And as Jar says, the Welsh absolutely love it in Minehead.
They bloody love getting down the road to Minehead, the Welsh, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Probably
Man,
because
rugby's going that shit. We've got to cheer something. So yeah,
I agree. A Welshman will be in the final, but I am going for the Iceman Gathering Price, and he will play. And I can't believe I'm about to say this. James Wade.
no.
Are you all right?
I just got a funny feeling that Wade's going to wade through the UK Open.
I mean,
I'm here for it, but
stranger things have happened, and I wouldn't dislike watching that happen. Like, I'm slightly in shock that prediction came from the left-hand side of the screen and not the right-hand side of the upper screen.
Remember, this was the last major he won, 2021?
are you just trying to wind us up? Because at this point, we're not going.
Right, yeah.
Right, Gob, I'll do you a deal. If James Wade gets to the final, I will give you the signed match-worn 2015 James Wade shirt that is on the wall in front of me.
Deal.
And what do I get when Dolby gets to the final?
Slap.
I haven't got... I'll get something Dobie for you if he gets to the final.
Each one of them, isn't it?
I just think early on, James will be on the outside boards, maybe stage 2. He'll just do his thing, be on the final day.
He come through a really good draw as well. That like he didn't have it all his own way when he won it a few years ago. It's different. I know it's only 4 years ago, but saying the names now, but he obviously beat Luke Humphreys, beat Gezi Price, beat Simon Whitlock, who was a different Simon Whitlock to current day Simon Whitlock, beat Gabriel Clemens, bit different player then. Like when he won it, it was a proper run. It wasn't like one of these weird, strange runs that we see people go on at the UK Open where they don't beat anyone. Like that was very impressive.
Yeah, see, and look, because I've predicted this, we've got a standby.
A standby microphone holder who isn't banished from the press room.
Yeah.
That's the UK Open. Obviously, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but at the weekend, take a bow. Charlie Manby, 130 average from the young man.
Bonkers. Who is playing in the UK Open as well, by the way. Charlie Manby will be there. And I seem to have... I did look just literally a couple of minutes ago at what his draw was, and that looked tasty,
Yeah, no, it was sensational. 100%. Oki, that stage 3 to 8 is the best place to be on a Friday.
It's the greatest place in darts. It's the greatest afternoon in darts in the year, that room.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Incredible. Also, over the weekend, Paula Jacklin wins on the WDF circuit.
With a lifetime high average. Career best average.
79.
79.
Fucking yes. Let's go fucking bunting mental.
That's what he's getting. That's what Billy's getting. Like, if he keeps acting a dick for his birthday, instead of a new set of Luke Littler darts, he'll get Paula Jacqueline merch.
Do they come pre-licked?
Fucking hell. I tell you what, it's been a bit off kilter this show, hasn't it? We've been
Oh yeah, everyone that we've met over the weekend, come and watch our show. It's really, really good.
Honestly, we've got so many
bad people, and
we met so many wonderful people at the tavern and managed to get a lot of them tuning in on this show. And I feel like we've gone completely
rogue.
Completely rogue. It's not normally like this. Normally much worse. I don't think I haven't even done some of the bad swear words tonight.
Oh, there's still time.
There's still time left. Yeah.
We can tip you over the edge, lad. Don't worry about things like
I was
that.
going to say, it's not. We haven't even gone on to some of my favourite subjects yet. We're running towards the back end of the time.
Look, it's a busy month ahead as well. When you look at what's coming up, the Euro Tour starts. We've got more Pro Tours, so it really feels like the season is just about to get going. I know we'll have had 2 majors, but I mean, like the nuts and bolts of it, Pro Tours all the time, a couple of Euro Tours. It's really hotting up.
That's when it feels up and running. Where if you've got the PDC calendar linked to your phone or something, and you open a month and you can literally see the calendar's stacked because it is underway, because we're now seeing not just TV tournaments, but it's Premier League every week. We've got major TV titles coming up, qualification events, Euro tours, but then Dev Tour, Challenge Tour, Women's Tour. Like it's when the calendar's stacked, and if you're into darts, it's the right time of year.
One thing I got asked to bring up as well: match play tickets went on sale today, and look, although there was disappointed people on social media not to get tickets, one, it didn't seem as bad as the Worlds and last year's match play when it was carnage trying to get on. It seemed like, I'm not sure what the PDC have done, but it seemed more structured this year. And Chris asked me to bring it up. Do you think, with darts becoming more and more popular the way it is, that they should introduce some kind of point system for getting tickets? Because you have your PDC membership for priority members. Should there be, like football and so on, some kind of point system?
No, it doesn't work, because, like, if you go for football, it works because you're watching the same team that plays in the same stadium for, depending on which league you're in. Let's take a mean average of 20 games a year, depending on which league you're in. But you're watching a team play 20 games a year in the same place. So you have that opportunity to regularly attend, and you can be, and if you aren't able to go for whatever reason, or you only go, like, you can structure a way to reward people that then pay a bit extra money to go to cup matches or travel to away games, and you can give them the first choice when you get, like, you say you get to Wembley, like Newcastle have done. And there's the other one. Like, if anyone's got a ticket or can get a ticket, I'm happy to write a check. I'm not too fussed about how much it costs, but I could do with getting a ticket to Wembley. But you can't get one for love nor money. Like, they're a nightmare because you have to have qualified for different things. I don't know how you'd structure a darts one, because what would you need to attend? Because you're essentially having to either give up multiple weekends, which I know some people do, but I don't know what you would factor in terms of points.
I was just asking the question.
You go to the match play, should you get further up the queue to go to the World Championships? Well, really, there are opposite ends of the country at completely different times of year. I don't think it works. If you buy a Premier League ticket, do you get? I think the only way you can do it, and I'm really against it because I fucking hate it with football. This bollocks about, like, buying a fucking membership. Like, I went to watch a Bolton game the other week because I happened to be in a hotel in Bolton with work, and they tried to sign me up to a membership I had to pay for annually to buy a fucking ticket to go and watch a stadium that's only a third full. I just don't think it'll work. There's always going to be people disappointed. I don't think it's perfect, the ticketing system. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I don't think it's a point system.
Ironically, there is one venue and tournament where this system does kind of work. And if you've got tickets or you've been in the past, you kind of get priority to go back. And we've come fucking unstuck about it this weekend. Because
because all you actually
on site a day earlier.
But that's not. Yeah, that's not actually based on, like, that's just based on having someone on site that can book for you. So, like, technically, you don't actually need, you know, I could be on site at Minehead. I could go in the ticket office and I could book a trip on the Friday. I could go back in on the Saturday and book again, and I could go back in on Sunday and book again. Like, that's just based on somebody being able to access the ticket office at Minehead when it's open, rather than, you know, rewarding on a point system or anything like that, because you can transfer the names for 25 quid. You just need to know someone who's on the site, that's all.
Yeah, I was just asking the question, that was all.
Oh, that's a good shout, Ryan. I shall do. I'm in there regularly. In fact, I need to go again, and my only deciding factor is, because I know I need to travel at some point, I'm just going to have a look at the fixture list and see when they've got a midweek game.
To be fair, Anthony, you might as well just stay in the south of the country. Don't bother going home Monday. Just go straight to Brighton and spend a few days there.
It's the only man that spends more time in hotels than me.
Look, the last 2 hours have absolutely flown by. One of the quickest live lounges we've had in terms of just chat and interaction from the chat room. You guys have been absolutely superb. It's been a great night, chaps.
One last plea: if anybody does have a way to get us to Minehead this week, please do get in touch. Let us know. If anybody can, surely Anthony can. That man's got the keys to the castle. But no, I'm joking.
I mean, we're happy to work. We can carry things. We can. I mean, we can't do fucking. We can't do very little. Talent-wise, we're limited between us all. In terms of our usefulness, we've got reasonable banter.
Remember, this will be available as an audio only in the morning as well, so you can catch that on all good podcast providers. But other than that, we will be keeping you busy with the Premier League and the UK Open, and the Live Lounge will return a week today. We are planning the 200th episode of the Live Lounge as well, so exciting times for that. We will keep you all posted. But other than that, everyone, have a great rest of the evening, whatever you're doing. Have a great week. And remember, it all kicks off Thursday in Exeter and then on to the UK Open for the FA Cup of Darts. I've been Phil Bars, Jack Garwood and Dan Simpson, and we'll see you all very, very soon.